Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. Today we're talking about mindset as a key ingredient to developing your full potential. We'll address what mindset is, what challenges that accompany mindset, and how you can use it to your advantage and tap into your full potential in developing healthy habits. Here to help us do that is mindset coach Emily Adams. Emily Adams, welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you and talking about mindset, which is so important, especially with goal setting, no matter what you're doing in life. And you've had a rich background in different experiences that have led you to this point. Could you maybe give us a little introduction of yourself and what brought you to becoming a mindset coach and focusing on this?
Yes, of course. I can give some background. I'd be happy to. So I was born and raised in the Amish culture, and I really started questioning a lot of things. And I continued to question. And when I was 17, I finally made the decision to leave the culture and everything I had known. And I think that was the first time I kind of realized how important mindset was looking back, is because I was the only one. I was the only one that was believing in myself. So then was an early age of like learning how to block out things. And I got really good at just really blocking it out and staying in the focused mindset of there's a bigger purpose for me. So I left at the age of 17, and my plan was to get an education. I wanted a degree and I wanted to learn more because I love to learn. I went to go get my GED, and I found out that actually had a sixth grade education instead of eighth grade compared to public schools.
Mhm.
So I got my GED, and the plan was to enroll in college, but I got pregnant with my oldest at the age of 18. So I put college kind of on the back burner and was married at the age of 19, because it's not uncommon for in the Amish culture to get married at a very young age. Most of the women are usually married between, I would say, anywhere from 18 to 20. And so getting married at 19 was just like, it was the right thing to do. I got pregnant. And also in the Amish culture, if you get pregnant, you're automatically married to that person. You don't have a choice. And there's no divorce in the Amish culture. So that's kind of how I was raised. So I get married, and a year into the marriage, I realized that this was a very verbal abusive marriage, and it wasn't something that was like I needed out, but I was scared, and I had just found out that I was pregnant with my youngest son. So I stayed. I stayed for 2 years and tried different things to try to make the marriage work until I realized like it was time for us to get out, for me and for my boys. I left the marriage, and then that's when I decided to start a lot of self-development and a journey on to finding out who I was, because I still believed I had a bigger purpose in life. So I enrolled in college, and as a single mom, decided I was going to get a bachelor's degree from Purdue University. And I went to go see my student advisor. And there's when she told me that, you're a single mom working full time. You're not going to be able to get your degree in 4 years, which is what I wanted. I wanted my degree in 4 years. And I told her, I don't have 6 years. I only have 4, and I'm going to do it in 4 years. So I was determined. I was very focused. And 4 years later, I did graduate with my bachelor's degree, but I stayed in school like year round. And meanwhile, I also had joined a gym to start working out because I had gained 55 pounds with my youngest. And I just didn't have no self-esteem. And I was actually, I needed therapy after the divorce, but didn't want to go to therapy or counseling. So I was like, I'll join a gym, started working out, and I seen how much working out, eating healthier really started changing my life and like my self-esteem and my confidence. And ran Spartan races for a while, and then I was introduced to powerlifting, which really changed who I was and made me even more confident in just stepping into my power and owning my own strength. And it was also in powerlifting I realized that mindset is huge when it comes to competing, and it was a huge part of just the training. Even if you're not even training for a competition or whatever, it's a big part of it. And till that kind of clicks with you and you get it, it's like there's a resistance around it, and it's not an ease and flow. Like once you understand it, there's more of an ease and flow around it. So after that, started competing, and then I had got married a second time. And 2 years later, he fell out of love. So I was on divorce number two, which was like it was hard. I was very angry, and I thought I had it all. I had just landed the corporate job I wanted. You know, thought my marriage was, I had everything, but I was still not fulfilled. And then when he told me he wanted a divorce, it really made me take a step back to really look at my life. And in doing so, I decided, I needed to start doing more for myself and find out who I am and what I want. And I took a momcation, which was the first time ever going on a vacation by myself. But it was hard because, as a mom, I had mom guilt. I still had the mindset of I have to do it all on my own again. I'm a single mom, and I'm in this alone. In reality, I wasn't, but I was just very wired that way. So during that time, I realized that I needed to start like really listening to my heart and my inner voice of like, you have a bigger calling. And then I made the decision to leave corporate, which was not an easy decision because it was a very stable job and it was what I thought I wanted to do for the rest of my life when I got hired in there. So I left the corporate job. And during that time, I realized that I had to have a very strong mindset and not to listen to everyone else's projection because it was always, I have anxiety for you. You're like, how are you going to do this? You're a single mom and you're leaving a stable income. Like, what are you going to do? So there was a lot of I had to block out a lot of stuff to do what I knew in my heart I was called to do. And to start with, I knew I was called to write and speak. And I thought I was also called to be a nutrition coach because nutrition and working out was just like my second nature. It was something that I'm really good at and I enjoyed doing. And I thought, I could do a really good job at being a nutrition coach. But what I found when I was doing nutrition coaching, it wasn't aligning with me anymore. It wasn't something I was passionate about. So I completely ditched the nutrition coaching and just took a step back and was like, during this time, I'm just going to take some time to find out who I am. And it's scary because I had no idea what was going to happen. And during that time, I actually had gotten very consistent with meditation. And the words be still had a whole other meaning to me now, just to be still and just to listen. And I never knew what it meant to be aligned in your life or just to listen to what your heart says. I was like, well, how do I know, this isn't like this some voice, that's speaking, that it's really my true self. And so I did a lot of digging and a lot of took some courses and did meditation consistently. And I saw it really transform my mindset. And then I got very interested in and started reading about how we are wired subconsciously. And it's just like a reel that keeps playing in our mind over and over and over. But if we want to change that story, we actually have the power to do so. And that's when I became really passionate about helping others start changing their story. And I also realized when I looked back, by changing my story on different parts of my life, we'll take powerlifting, for example. When I started powerlifting, my goal was to always reach 1,000-pound total. Between squat, bench, and deadlift, I want 1,000-pound total. And I thought, if I reached the 1,000-pound total, I can then retire from powerlifting. and in December of 2019, I walked into that competition where I had planned on reaching 1,000-pound total. I was focused. I was zoned out. I was like just so zoned out and focused on what I wanted. And during that time, I actually reached 1,013 total. And I realized I had visualized all my lifts before I lifted them. I had shifted my mindset to be like, there was no doubt in my mind. I knew walking out of there, I was going to have that 1,000-pound total. And then when I saw I hit 1,013, I realized I had just rewrote my story and I just tapped into a whole other world. Like I can't stop at 1,000 now because like I know I'm capable of so much more. And that kind of gave me the drive. I qualified to go to drug tested nationals in 2020. It's now bumped to September of this year. So, but during that competition, I realized I had shifted my entire mindset to be like, there was no doubt in my mind. And when you do that, I just basically rewired myself. So it just gave me more power to keep going and know that I could rewire myself in other parts of my life as well.
Wow, that is amazing. I love your journey. I love your focus on your health and how that really pulled you along in realizing your goals, like with your education, with powerlifting, with raising your boys. That is amazing, and that's just from the mindset, you think?
I think with the health, it kind of started out as a weight loss, right? We kind of start out as weight loss. If I just drop this weight, then I'm going to feel happy or I'm going to feel fulfilled or whatever. But to me now, health is something different. Yeah, it's maintaining the weight I want to lose, but there's so many different aspects of health and mentally. Like I used to be wired just like, well, if I have this body, I'm going to be happy, but it's not true because you can have that perfect body, you can have that perfect nutrition plan, but if you haven't changed yourself mentally or you change your mindset, you're not really going to have true happiness. And I had to wire myself to be like, yeah, I may not be at the goal that I want for weight and to eating healthy, and I may have those times that I'm going to slip up and not eat so healthy, but that's okay. I can allow grace and I can eventually get there. And I think once you change that mentally, you also realize that that goal weight, yeah, it's going to give you, quick happiness, but you also have to dig a little bit deeper to see what really is going to make you happy. Because you can have all the things in the world and still not be happy. But I always say that eating healthy and getting some kind of movement in, you don't have to be a bodybuilder or powerlifter, but getting like some kind of movement in, the eating healthy, the nutrition and the movement and the mindset is all kind of connected. Because if you don't eat healthy and you don't eat cleaner type foods, you kind of feel like in a groggy state of mind. And then you kind of go down the rabbit hole of, now I feel like I don't want to go work out. And I kind of feel just bloated. Or my thing was like, well, maybe I'll just eat an extra few bites because like I already feel bloated. I might as well feel miserable. Right. So I had to change, it's all connected. And when I finally realized that all of this is connected, it shifted my perspective. And then I was like, okay, maybe, this food is no longer serving me. I need to let that go. And sometimes it's hard because, it's food that we've told ourselves that we enjoy all our life and we
Mhm.
go to change some of this. But a lot of it does come through mindset.
Sure. Now, just kind of backtracking a little bit, you talked about rewiring yourself almost. What do we mean by mindset? And how do you feel that, does that drive you toward achieving these different goals or these different activities?
Yeah. So mindset is powerful in anything that you are trying to do, whether that's lose weight, get the career, whatever it is. A lot of times when we think about mindset, we're like, oh, we're positive and, we try to do the right things and we try to always, be in this positive mindset. But for me, I had to take a step back, and I'm like I've always been a very positive person and I can always see the good in everything, no matter what the situation is. But what I was doing in my life was I would have all these doubts and these fears come up, and instead of being like feeling into the emotions and saying, okay, right now my mindset is fearful because of XYZ, instead of doing that, I was pouring affirmations on top of them. So, if I had fear of failure, I'm like, no, you're not going to fail, and you're amazing, you're this. That only works for so long. I had to dig a little bit deeper and go inner to realize, okay, I'm having fear. I acknowledge it. Once you acknowledge it, it's there, right? And now I want to rewire this fear to say, yeah, you're just there, but you no longer serve me. So therefore, instead of having fear of failure, I know that I'm going to be successful. And you just kind of rewire those. And if you just there was an exercise that I did that was very powerful for me, where I just took an hour of my day and I was aware of everything that was running in my mind because I really wanted to understand my mindset. And what was happening, I had these little small limiting beliefs that I didn't realize were really running through my mind. Like, oh, I don't like vegetables. That's actually a limiting belief, right?
Mhm.
Because you can rewire yourself, or I don't have enough time. I never have enough time, or I have to do these dishes again because there's more dishes. And I kept realizing that even though I was a very positive person, these little feelings were still affecting my mindset. And if I could rewire these little feelings, so the activity was to write down every feeling that no longer served you or that was limiting or that was like a lack of a abundance mindset. And just for an hour was overwhelming. I was like, whoa, like I have a lot of like limiting beliefs that I had no idea that it was affecting my mindset. So I started looking at the top limiting beliefs and I started rewriting those. So I would just take a paper on one side, write limiting beliefs, the old limiting beliefs, and then how do I want to rewire them? So, for example, if I had a limiting belief that I was not a good enough mom, because that used to run a lot because I'm not a good enough parent, I would rewrite that belief as I am the perfect parent for my child. And so I could continue to play that, right? So it's just kind of like a rewiring process. And if that's, around nutrition or whatever it is, start thinking about the little things, just by saying, I don't like vegetables, because I used to say it all the time. I don't like vegetables. So now the story is vegetables are healthy and my body needs them and I love them. And I started, taking action towards that, trying different vegetables, trying them cooked different ways. So it all just starts with, really acknowledging what's going on. And sometimes we have to sit quietly and be still to know what our brains are doing, because we have so many distractions, right? We can pick up our phone, we can watch a movie, we can go and never just sit and be like, what kind of mindset am I really in?
Interesting. I love that. I love the fact that you're not necessarily ignoring those little negative voices, but you're turning those into a positive. You're acknowledging them, but that you're turning it into a positive, and that you're filling your life with positive things. That is
Yeah.
amazing. I love that. So now you talk a lot about using mindset to tap into your full potential. Now, what do we mean by full potential, and how can you use? You alluded to it a little bit in our conversation, but how do you really use mindset to really tap into that potential, to find that purpose or that happiness that you're talking about?
Yeah, so everything kind of starts again with like your perception of things. And when we go to change our perception, or even when we start having an open mind of having a perception to tap into who we were meant to be and to live a fulfilled life, it's scary, right? It's something that we don't, as a society as a whole, we don't really advertise like, do the inner work, dig deep and figure out what you really want in life. And a lot of people will be like, whoa, like, I don't want to do that. That makes me feel very uncomfortable. And it is an uncomfortable process. It's not something that you just sign up for and you're like, oh, this is going to be fun and easy, because it's not. And I feel like so many times we don't want to be uncomfortable. So we just stay in our safe little space of not doing it. And when I talk about tapping into your full potential, is it starts with having an open mind and opening your perception. So if you think you have much more potential, there's your first step. You already are thinking you have more potential. And I'm here to tell you that everyone has so much more potential than they give themselves credit for. And I used to always think to myself, a lot of it was self-talk for me, was like, how was I talking to myself? I would always tell myself, I have so much more potential. Like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I still stuck in this corporate job? Even if it's my dream job, I have much more potential. And I would always ask myself that. And then if I had doubts like, oh, but this is a good stable job and you shouldn't leave it, I would be like, no, what would the highest version of myself, or what would my best friend tell me? They would say, you have the potential. You can do anything you set your mind to. And when you start realizing that, you start tapping into, oh my goodness, like I can do this. And you start taking action. And the more action you take, even if it's small things, maybe it's meal prepping for a week, it makes you feel like, wow, I did that. Like I accomplished that. I'm slowly tapping into the person that I want to be. And it's small things just lead to bigger things. It's kind of like a muscle that you have to exercise.
Mhm, sure. And so it's basically doing it, just, saying those things. Is it saying them often enough, or you're kind of moving toward that fulfillment point, but maybe at the beginning there might be some little challenges to developing that?
Yes. So there will be some little challenges to develop that. And I would say take some time to start really working and upgrading yourself. So for example, you don't buy a flip phone and never upgrade. You're going to upgrade your phone. And that's just how you have to upgrade your mind, like your mindset, your thoughts, the perceptions you have, and really think about a lot of it too comes from the way we were raised. I was raised very religious, and now I'm more on the spiritual side versus religion. So it's just really thinking about all the thoughts that are coming to you, that are running through your head. Ask yourself if that serves you anymore. And sometimes you'll realize it no longer serves you, and you picked it up either from your childhood or someone said something to you and you held on to it. Where when you release that, you start to realize, wow, like I have so much more. And for me, like tapping into the full potential is I had a lot of limiting beliefs around being an athlete. I thought, I would never be athletic. I wasn't raised that way. It was a story I was telling myself. And when I first started working out, and I hadn't dropped any weight, a personal trainer actually had told me that, you're too old to be an athlete. And I kind of hung on to that. And then I realized, like in powerlifting, I was like, no, like I am an athlete now. And I was like, wow, like I just, that was just a little small story I hung on to until I realized it wasn't serving me anymore. That's not true. It was just someone else's opinion. So I could still be the athlete and I could still be whatever I wanted to be. And I think a lot of times it starts with actually believing in ourselves. And that can be very difficult because then, we have to start working on our self-worth and our self-love, which self-love is not going out and buying you stuff but actually doing the deep inner work. And sometimes that can lead to healing, doing inner child work, healing. And it's not comfortable. It's very uncomfortable, and it can be painful as you work through different things that have happened through your life, whether you've had a traumatic past or not. It's not comfortable because, these little things are coming up and you realized because I didn't get A, B, or C, now I'm struggling with D. Maybe, there wasn't much love in my family. Now I have a hard time loving myself. And I think that's huge when it comes to tapping into your full potential. You have to know who you are and stand in that. And sometimes people just have to have someone to believe in them. And I always tell people I'll be the biggest supporter ever. So just to believe in you. Like you have the potential. It's there. And you can do anything you really set your mind to.
Sure. And do you think now you mentioned a lot of times, people struggle with different things, whether it's growing up or in their earlier years, but at the same time, they may have had good examples throughout that period of time. So are there some success stories or some examples of both, when you've had good experiences as well as when people have had a little bit of struggles early on?
Yes, definitely. And I would say there are a lot of good examples, and I've had a few in my life. And one of the things that my dad taught me in the business side of it was to never play small. And I think that really wired me to take the risks that I have taken in my life and just really to dream big, think big, and just go for it. If you fail, you fail. And it'll be okay. Like you can get right back up. And I think a lot of people have very positive people in their life of good influences, whether it's a coach that they played sports with that really influenced them to be the best, that can help wire them and influence them to tap into their potential. Because I know a lot of different people that have influenced me. So yeah, there's good and bad when it comes to that. You kind of get to, but the cool thing is you get to pick and choose as a person which one you want to hang on to. So you can release the bad and still keep those good times, those good thoughts and the good wiring, as I would call it.
Sure. Now you've worked with different groups or different organizations to kind of help people develop this confidence and develop this full potential. Will you tell us a little bit about that, or and maybe some examples of how those individuals have really helped to improve their mindset and so forth?
Yeah, I did do Girls Inc., which is an organization here in Indiana. I think they might be worldwide, but I developed a 4-week program for them for girls. It was 5th grade through I believe 8th grade, and in this program, it was again nutrition, movement, and mindset, and a lot of body image since it was just younger girls. I wanted to really get them to own who they are. And we did a lot of different exercises of body images and being confident. Like, it doesn't matter what shape, size, or whatever you are, but just being very confident and standing up in who you are. And then one of the biggest things that came up in this, which shocked me because I don't have girls, right? I only have boys. But one of the things was like, all of those girls felt like they weren't thin enough, like they weren't skinny enough. And I was like, so we talked about it, and I was like, why do you guys feel like you're not skinny enough? And it comes down to what society says is skinny and what's not. So I told them, I was like, if I go to the doctor, they tell me that I'm obese because I'm still on the spectrum, because they don't measure, muscle, right? So they just look at the scales and they're like, oh, well, you're on the heavier side. I said, but what the doctors don't understand, or those people that call me, that label me as that, I powerlift, I work out 5 days a week. Like, I compete competitively. I am very active. I can keep up with my boys. So really, it's just a label, and we can let go of that label. It doesn't matter. We don't have to be skinny to fit in. And we talked a lot about, different labels and how we can let go of those labels and choose ones that feel good and be more confident and, owning our worth and showing up who we are. We don't need to be worrying about losing weight at fifth or sixth grade. Like, we need to stop that. And so it was an amazing moment for them to just be like, oh, wow, like, she does have a point. So that was one of the things that I really enjoyed working with them, and just like listening to them kind of to understand, what they're going through, from in school and just in the society as whole, is the wiring process of being skinny to be popular, which is sad, right? We have so many body images, like, and I think that's why I love powerlifting. You walk in and no one cares what kind of body you have. You compete, and it's a very welcoming community. We don't have to be a certain size or shape. We have different weight classes. You go in your weight class, and that's the end of it. So I really like that. And then I had the opportunity to actually speak at the Madison High School, and that was more on career related. And in that, my message was, whatever your career is, don't let anyone persuade you from it, because a lot of times we will listen to parents, family, friends. Hey, this is a better path for you to take. This looks better for you. But if it's really not what you want, you're not going to be passionate about it. So you're going to end up getting that degree and being like, now what do I do? And now I have to go into this field of work I don't really like. So standing up and knowing, you may not know your exact path you want when you graduate, but knowing that you have the voice and you don't have to listen to anyone or get anyone's approval to take the path you want to take. So we talked a lot about just career, and I've shared with them, I started out with a sixth grade education, got my GED, and then went to Purdue and got a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership and supervision. And now I don't necessarily use my degree, but everything I learned in college is still applicable. I can still apply it to multiple different things, especially on the leadership side.
That is amazing. I love that your own transition and how you're sharing those stories, and how you're working with these different groups to help them overcome the label, I guess. Now, do you find that, working, you've worked with a lot of different age groups and with adults, do you feel that it's harder to overcome the label as an adult, or as you gain experience in different career fields or whatever, than earlier on?
I think children in general have more of an open mind than what we do as an adults, because we've already been wired to, like, this is my opinion, this is what, how I feel, think. And if we don't go into it in an open mind as an adult, we're not there yet. We're not there yet ready to change that. So we have to, as adults, we have to keep in mind, we need an open mind. If something is clearly not working in our life and we want to change our mindset, we have to be open to how to change it and not just be so narrowed. And I think with children, it's easier because they already have very open minds. And that's the incredible thing about teaching them. But with adults, once they realize, the more I open up my mind, and yeah, it's scary because it kind of puts you in a vulnerable spot, the more that I could change and grow as a person.
Mm, sure. So what are some first steps if you're trying to kind of overcome the negative things or to adjust, what are some initial steps that you can take, especially when if you've had a lot of life experiences that may not have been great, or vice versa. But how does that begin? How does that mindset in what's the start of that mindset change?
I think the start of it is really the awareness. Well, I would say first having an open mind, knowing that, these are, I need to get out of this negative mindset or whatever it is. So you need to get out of it, and then start being aware, like what is going on, what is running through my head all the time. And there are many different ways you can start being aware. And I would say meditation is going to be one of your biggest tools. And for those that may not feel comfortable with meditation, I was one of those that was like, meditation is just for monks and they sit and meditate for hours. And I don't have that time, and powerlifters don't meditate. Um, but it's really not that. It's really just sitting and being still, even if it's 5 minutes. Like if you do that consistently, you'll see that it's slowly helping you change your mindset. And you slowly start wanting to have better and positive thoughts, and you start feeding your brain better things. You're unplugging from the negativity on social media, you're unplugging from the news, and you're taking these steps, just being aware of where your thoughts are at. And meditation, if it's guided, whatever, like just take 5 minutes and just start being still so you can understand where you're at and start listening to your heart, because it will never lead you wrong. It might say some things that your logical mind is like, no, we can't do that, we can't do that. But it's just your logical mind. So ask yourself, like, in your heart, you already have all the answers. And I know it sounds like I'm making it sound really easy to do this, but I also will tell you, like, it's very uncomfortable. But if you're willing to be uncomfortable, you grow as a person and you start changing your mindset and you start transforming your life. If a lot of it too is, don't get overwhelmed, like take small steps. Journaling has been a huge tool for me as well. Journaling, meditation, being aware. If you're at the point where you're like, okay, I've done all those things and now I'm ready to commit to hire a coach, hire someone that knows how to help you, someone that you're going to resonate with. If you feel like you have a lot of trauma in your life and you want to clear up that, hire someone that does inner child work. It's not going to be easy and you're going to want to quit. Like, I've been there. Not that I had a traumatic past, but I had a lot of deep wounds I needed to heal myself. And I can see why people don't do it. It's very uncomfortable.
Yes, I can see that, because you don't want to necessarily bring up the past. You want to move forward, but do you feel that past really holds you back a lot from your potential?
Absolutely. And before doing inner child work myself, I would have been like, no, the past is the past and we don't bring that up. But what I didn't realize, some of my self-worth issues that I had, on the outside, I look like the most confident person in the world. And I'm like, this powerful woman, leadership position, I stand in my power. I'm very confident. But on the inside, I was kind of dying a slow death of like, oh my goodness, like I'm not worthy of this. And a lot of the worthiness tied back to a lot of my past experiences. Take the two divorces, for example. Like, I went through counseling on one of them, and after that I was like, no, counseling is not even helping me. Like, that's just, I wasn't there. It wasn't helping.
Mhm.
So there was still a lot of, and even if you didn't go through divorce, there's still a lot of wounds, deep wounds that maybe you just pushed back in the back of your mind. But every time you feel a sense of not feeling worthiness, you think of that incident. So I feel like once you go back there and heal that, and the healing is painful and so freeing at the same time, then you can start moving forward.
Mm. Have you seen people who have worked those things out and then be able to move forward, um, versus someone who just kind of puts the past in the past and then's trying to move forward? Has there been a difference between those two types of situations?
So I think when you put the past in the past and you forget it and you leave it there and you say, I'm never going back there, yes, you're still going to be able to change, but you're going to be a lot more resistance. And what I mean by that is there's going to be certain things that are going to keep coming up and keep coming up. until you heal it. I was one of those people. And I've seen it a lot too, where if you don't go back and figure out where did this thought or this belief come from, and then it's going to be harder for you to heal.
Okay, because you're still hanging on to those
Yes.
feelings or those experiences.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I can understand that's kind of like carrying around a big, you're a power lifter carrying around a big barbell when you don't have to, I guess.
Yeah. I there was this really cool thing too that I saw where every limiting belief that you have, if you wrote it on a rock and put it in a bag and carried it around with you for a day, look at the amount of weight that you're carrying that you really don't need to carry. And you can tie that, whether it's limiting beliefs or your doubts or your fear or whatever it is. If you did that exercise and you really think about it, it's all just a lot of weight that we really don't have to carry.
Mm, absolutely. So any as we wrap up, any other like guidance for people who want to change their mindset but are still a little hesitant, or some things, how can they, we talked about things how you can start, but any other guidance or tips that you would recommend?
Yes, I would start with there's a lot of free resources. There's podcasts, there's videos, there's books. It's not, don't get caught up in trying to do it the right way or be a perfectionist like I was, but more so just take action. And even if that action is just, I'm open to start changing and I'm open to start this journey of personal development and, dedicate 5 minutes a week or 5 minutes a day to it, make the space for it. I think if you don't make the time or the space for it, it's just like working out and eating healthy. If you don't make the time, it's really not going to happen. So I would say be open, find tons of free resources out there, and make the space and just commit what you can. It doesn't have to be hours. I didn't spend hours and hours upon hours on in a week to do it. Like I did just what I could, but I was very intentional. So for me, driving to work, I was listening to podcasts. I made a commitment to give up all TV because the news was constantly running and it would put me in a negative mindset. And I've been without TV for several years now, and I'm completely happy with it. But even if that's limiting some social media, social media can be very, we go down a deep rabbit hole of comparison to doubt to fear to whatever it may be. But yeah, I would say there's tons of free resources. Just start there.
Sure. Okay, wonderful. Now, how can people get in contact with you if they want to learn more about your work and your story?
Yes. So I do have a podcast. It's called The Emily Adams Show. And I hang out a lot on my Instagram stories. My Instagram is Emily_powerlifting. And then I do have a website that is emilyadams.net.
Okay, wonderful. That is fantastic. We'll include those in the show notes and have people be able to access all that. Emily, it's been a pleasure and it's been exciting to hear how people can develop that mindset and really use that to achieve so much. I love that. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to be notified as new episodes become available. You can also visit our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com to check out some free resources on helping you develop healthy eating habits for life success.